What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Andrew coming at y'all with another video. And as y'all can see by the title of the video, today I'm going to be upgrading my big three. I already have the big three, that one, and then the one to the ground. But the reason why I'm redoing it is, as you can see, this is only 4 gauge. It is OFC wire, but I went ahead and got me a whole roll of OFC 0 gauge, and I'm going to be rewiring my whole system. But I'm going to be starting out with the big three because that's probably easiest for me to do at this point. And the reason why I'm doing it is I'm already preparing to get me that new alternator probably next week or the week after that. Probably whenever I'm done with all this wiring. But I want to get as best conductivity as I can before I get the alternator, like the best electrical, I should say. Because right now I have all CCA wiring coming from this battery to the back. The OFC is only for the big three right now. So that's why I got this, that whole row, 50-foot row, because I'm probably gonna need it because I'm using it for the big three. I'm using it to run power wire all the way back to the secondary battery. Might even run a second run of power wire all the way to the back if I have enough room. I mean, if I have enough row. It is 50 feet, so we'll see. And then also I gotta run power wire from that secondary battery to my amps. And then kind of want to do 2 runs of that too. So as you can see, I'm going to need a lot, even though I have a small car, a little Civic, little coupe, but probably end up using all of it. I might actually need more, but we're going to find out. But anyways, for the topic of the video, let's go ahead and redo this wiring for this big three. So let me give y'all a little overview on what you got to do. This is like the most basic big three. Some people like to do a big 4, big 5, all that extra stuff, but I'm just doing the basis of a big three. And that's supposed to help your voltage, especially if your lights are dimming and your voltage is sagging a little bit. But eventually you're gonna need either AGM battery slash lithium in the back. You're gonna need a high output alternator. Don't have that yet, but I already got the AGMs. One in here, one in the back. But as far as the big three, you're gonna have 1 ground. Always keep your factory wires. That's one thing I heard. Always keep your factory, don't remove them. So I have the negative from the battery post going to this. It's like a little bolt going down. It's basically just the battery ground. And then you're gonna have a power from your positive of your battery going to the positive of your alternator. And I just tapped in. Well, there's already a wire right there. Like I said, don't remove it, just add on to it. And then you're gonna have the engine ground going from the engine all the way back to the chassis. So you can't really see it that well, but it's back there. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to do my best to remove this as fast as possible because I'm running out of daylight. I mean, this ain't that bright, but anyways, gonna see if I can do this real quick. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. And I wanted to talk about the wiring I got. Obviously OFC is always gonna be better than CCA. They can just pull more current through the wire than CCA wire. CCA is cheap stuff. If you can, always go for OFC. I didn't know it at the time, so that's why I got CCA. I just didn't know, but now I do. And this is a brand I wanted to try. I hadn't really heard much about it, but I've heard that it's made by Sundown. So Sundown's a great subwoofer brand, great amp brand. So I wanted to go ahead and try it. So like I said, 50 feet of 0 gauge OFC, and it says it has 4,704 strands, so I think that's pretty good. And it's 10 OFC. 10 OFC is better. It helps it to keep less corrosion, because you know copper corrodes, kind of like the Statue of Liberty. It corrodes and turns green. So that's what copper does. But with 10, it shouldn't do that. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get all that put on. So let's get to it. So I always like to start off with the ground. Went ahead and disconnected it from the battery. And now there's a bolt down there. It might be different for every car, but for this 2006 Honda Civic, that's where the bolt is right there. So I'm just loosening it up. I'll go ahead and taking this one out first. All right, so I got the first one out. So what I'm gonna do is basically just get a tape measure and measure out how long this is, so I can save as much of this wire as I can, because I still got to use a lot of it for the rest of the wiring. So after I get the cutout for the length of the wire I need, You're gonna get some copper grounds, not copper grounds, but copper lugs. You always want to use like good copper ones because they always have like the cheap ones. Like, let me see if I got something to show y'all. The ones that look like this, these are usually going to be the cheap ones. But the good quality copper lugs should look almost orange, like copper. Like that's probably not even copper. What I showed you, I just had it because it's cheap. But you always want to get the good lugs, especially if you're doing like big threes like this. So I'll leave links to all the stuff that I'm using in the description, including this. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the wire and measure it out. So just a little size comparison. You can see just how much bigger a 0 gauge is compared to a 4 gauge. Although this is good 4 gauge wire, it is OFC. You're gonna have way more conductivity and amperage going through the wire with a thicker wire like this. So actually it's kind of funny. The wire, I mean the actual copper itself is probably as thick as the 4 gauge with the surrounding on the outside. So just wanted to show y'all that. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off camera though. One thing I did want to point out though is that I was thinking about trying to get welding wire because I've heard that that's some pretty good wire too. In my opinion, I don't think it's as good as like true OFC, tinned OFC, but that's just up for debate. But what I know for sure is better. This is better than welding wire. Is flexibility. A lot of welding wire is really stiff and easy to work. I mean, not easy to work with, but this really bendy, easy to work with. Just wanted to point that out for y'all. If y'all trying to figure out between welding wire and OFC for car audio. But y'all let me know if y'all tried both. Which one has better, like, I guess, conductivity? Y'all let me know. I'm just finding a lot of stuff about this wire that I actually do like. So I'm not done cutting out the part that I want to cut out. But I noticed that this rubber, like this around, I don't know what you really call it, but it's actually really easy to cut. Like I was using my my wire cutters. Got this off of Amazon too. I can link that. But a lot of wire is sometimes really hard to cut because like the plastic around it or rubber, whatever you want to call it, be real thick. This is thick, don't get me wrong, but it's easy to cut, so I do like that. So this is what tinned OFC looks like. You would think that this don't even look like copper, but what tinned OFC actually is, it is copper, but it is surrounded by a coating of tin, like I said, to keep down corrosion. So if you want to know if it really is OFC, like tinned OFC, it'll probably look silver most of the time because it's coated. But I'm gonna go ahead and crimp one of the lugs on here. So make sure you cut off enough to where you can make sure you get a good crimp. And I always make sure that you use one of these. Let me show y'all real quick. I always make sure that y'all use actually like good hydraulic crimper, because if you try to crimp with like a hammer or some pliers, you're not gonna get a good enough connection, especially under the hood with stuff like this. You always want to make sure you get a hydraulic crimper that can do 0 gauge. In my case, I got this one from I believe Harbor Freight, but if you don't want to go inside, leaving the link on Amazon for one. So make sure you get one of these. This is like a must when it comes to like wiring car audio stuff. Gotta have a hydraulic crimper. And one tip that I learned to get a lug on there, if it's kind of hard to put on without like some of the wires fraying off and not getting all of it in, is to get you some zip ties, tighten it up as tight as you can, and then where did I put it? Hold on, my bad, y'all. And then trying to do this with one hand, sorry y'all. And then put it on so you can get all the wire in there. In my case, I didn't tighten it enough, but so you can get all the wire in there, and then you can cut off the zip tie so you can get all the wire inside of this lug. Sorry about the bad camera angle. I need to get me a tripod. I don't have one right now, but I just want to show y'all this little trick. So I crimped it off camera because it's really hard to do that with one hand and still trying to record. But this is what a good crimp should look like. I did have a little bit of wire hanging out just because like I wasn't able to get enough in there, but it's sturdy though. Like if you try to pull this, it ain't going nowhere. And one thing good to do is to get a shrink wrap or heat shrink, I should say, and put it over just to ensure that it's on there good. But I don't have that right now because I actually ordered some from Sky High. I hadn't got here yet, but I wanted to go ahead and do this install. So right now, temporarily, I'm just going to wrap it with some electrical tape. It's like right here, just so it's not no wires hanging out. But it is sturdy. This lug ain't going nowhere. So yeah. So this is what it should look like when you're done. Obviously, it'll look cleaner if you actually have some heat shrink, but I will be getting some soon and gonna be putting that on. But for right now, just got some electrical tape just to make sure there's no wires hanging out. But with the hydraulic crimp or hydraulic press, it's on there good. Ain't nothing going on. Like, it's not gonna be able to come off. So I'm gonna go ahead and install it back in. But pretty much the big three is literally just this. I will say though, for the power though, a lot of people recommend that you put a fuse holder with a fuse right there that's rated specifically for your alternator. So basically you want to have a fuse that's like, say your alternator is 300 amps. You want to have a fuse that's a little bit higher than that. So like, I know you can't really have like a 320 fuse, but a 350 would be good. A lot of people say that it's really, especially for basic systems, you shouldn't need nothing more than like a 250, which is what I have right here. But if it blows, it blows, and then I'm gonna have to get a bigger fuse, especially when I get that new alternator. But right now, I'm gonna put the ground one back on, but I'm just gonna screw it in down there, but I'm not gonna actually put it on the battery terminal, just so I can keep the negative off for now. Then I'm gonna go ahead and do this one next, and then tackle that one in the back. That one's probably the hardest because that last wire in the back is probably the hardest to get to. But yeah, that's really pretty much it. It's not that hard. Like, you can do it yourself. But I'm gonna go ahead and continue. All right, so I hadn't tightened it up yet, but I did want to show y'all what it looked like. So what you're doing is adding on wire. You're not making new holes, not unless you have to. I'm putting the big wire back into the same hole that the factory one went in, just to ensure just like that it's gonna be a good ground. I'm gonna do that for everything. So like everywhere where there's a hole that it's supposed to be placed in, I'm gonna be putting the new wire added on to it. So I'm not having to drill any new holes, not unless you have to, like I said, but that's what it's gonna look like basically. And also in the last video, or maybe not the last video, but in a couple videos ago, I installed this excess power battery, which is AGM, really good for car audio, by the way. Y'all can go check that video out. I did install this, but I didn't know if I had enough length for this one, for this negative, to do the same thing. But I cut some wire, not cut some, but I cut some of the plastic away just to see how much room I had, how much length I had, and I do have enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off, because yeah, as you can see, it's really corroded. You don't want no corrosion when you're dealing with car audio. So I'm gonna go ahead and probably cut that right there, and then put a lug on it that'll fit. That's probably close to like a 4 gauge. So I'm gonna see if I can find a 4 gauge lug, and then install this. So that way, I'll have some good connections and nothing be corroded, so it'll look similar to this one. I was able to get a lug. I'm happy that I actually had one more 4 gauge lug left. I actually didn't think I had one, but that'll be perfect. So like I said, went ahead and installed this. So this one will go right here, and then that one will go to that one on the left. So that's why I like these, because you can just put a terminal on them and just screw them down into here, which I feel like is way more secure. But did that, but I'm gonna leave those unhooked just so like all this electrical isn't live. And then I'm gonna do this one, undo this, do the same thing I did. Take it out, measure it, and then replace the wire. All right, so I got that side unhooked, and then now I'm just unscrewing this bolt, which is a 10 millimeter, and that'll come right off. So I ran into my first issue that I didn't have with the 4 gauge, is that the copper terminal, or the lug I should say, is a little too big to fit inside of that hole. So what I'm gonna have to do is see if I can like use my Dremel and shave off the sides of this, just so I can get it in there. Cause if I have it like this, it ain't gonna be able to get on there good. And I don't really wanna have to mess with this at all. But yeah, the best thing to do is try to see if I can shave this down with a Dremel or something. All right, y'all, so that was a pain in the butt. But what I realized is that this is just way easier to grind down than trying to grind this down, because it is metal and this is plastic. I just didn't really want to mess with it, but it really wasn't that big a deal, since this really doesn't matter anyway. It's just surrounding to protect the wire. But as you can see, it now goes on there now. I trimmed this, but then I was realizing that it's going to take way too long to trim this, whereas I could just like grind down the sides. And I also realized that with the Dremel, It was way easier to just grind it down rather than trying to cut it with like the cutting wheel. So if you doing something similar to this, like if you got a similar car that has the same kind of issue, just use a grinding bit on the Dremel and it'll be so much easier. So now let's go ahead and continue. That took probably like 30 minutes, a lot way longer than we were supposed to. So now let's go ahead and continue. All right, y'all, so I finally got that on and gotta connect that, and then I just got that one in the end. All right, y'all, so I got this hooked up. I went ahead and put this side on too because it's getting late and I might not be able to do this side tonight, so I'm probably have to come back tomorrow. But this is what we're looking like right now. I got it in my zip tie, so this not going anywhere. And I tried to have this away from this as much as possible, and this, because I know all these three, this, and this get hot. So I tried to get it somewhere in the middle, but it's gonna get hot regardless. So I might have to add some of this this material to keep it from getting too hot right in here. But all this is done. I just got to get to that one, but I'll probably do that tomorrow, so stay tuned. All right, y'all, so I was able to get it done tonight. I'm not gonna be able to test it till tomorrow, but I gotta say that bolt right there was a pain in the butt to get to, but I got it. So that's done, this one's done, and this one's done. What I'm curious to see is if changing from 4 gauge to 0 gauge helps at all. I know that I still need to upgrade the rest of my wiring to this instead of the CCA that I do have back there. So I know I am limited, but I'm curious to see if I'll see any kind of increase in like voltage, but probably not, but who knows, we'll see. So I'll go ahead and test it out, and if I see any results, I'll let y'all know. So I did a little bass test. I probably might have to mute it just cause like I might get copyrighted, whatever. But I think that I gained a little bit of increase as far as voltage. I would be dropping into like the 11.7s, 11.8s, and look right now it's going down to like 12 flat. So it might have helped it a little bit, but not enough to be like, oh, this is a huge difference. But compared to if I was to not have that 4 gauge Big 3 at all, this will help a whole lot over the factory system. So if you interested in trying to like increase your voltage, fix your dimming, or at least help your dimming in your lights when your bass hits, definitely do the Big 3 upgrade. So with that being said, if y'all have any more questions for me, peace out, y'all.